All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this special Inauguration Day People's Party special of the Eynelys Show. I am your host, Eynelys Garcia. We have an amazing show for you guys today. We're going to be talking about the next 4 years, what Biden could or may not do during those 4 years, best and worst case scenario. We're going to be talking about the People's Party and what the plan for the next 4 years for that is. So we have an amazing show for you guys today, and we've got quite a few guests. So we're going to be having Nick Brana, Chris Smalls, and Graham Elwood come on. But right now, we are starting with my favorite guest. She is a comedian. She is a regular contributor and the executive producer of the Jimmy Dore Show, and she's a friend of the Eynelys Show. Please welcome the amazing Stef Zamorano. Stef, how are you?
I'm great, Eynelys. It's great to be here. And I don't think I would have known today was inauguration if it weren't for you.
You're welcome.
Remind me that it's coming, like, isn't it actually here today? And I'm happy to celebrate this momentous occasion of all my disappointments coming together in the first day of Joe Biden's presidency. And just come on. I mean, I thought it was weird saying President Trump.
Right.
President Biden. If you look at where we were a year ago and where he was a year ago, it is unfathomable that today is his day. And I don't know if you caught him. He was on the road, was it yesterday? And he was giving a speech and he teared up during the speech and he was just like so touched by everybody. And I thought, bummer that he can shed tears for himself, but doesn't have the awareness of the gravity of suffering that's happening all around us. But he could feel that pain and compassion and sentimentality for his own life of privilege. So that was just, I saw that yesterday and I don't know if you caught that, but it really, to me, I'm probably the worst person in the world right now for saying that too. Probably no. Just like, I'm sure I'm saying something awful that somehow is going to come back to haunt me.
No, so. you know what it is that the reason why we almost didn't notice what today was because it's not an exciting moment. It's not an exciting moment. This is supposed to be a day of, hope and renewal and, looking forward to the future. And the truth is, we're in the middle of a crisis and he's already going back on the first basic thing that he promised, which was a $2,000 check. That's now $1,400 because we didn't read the fine print. And, it's already starting off on a bad note. We already know that he's not going to do anything substantial to move our country forward. And there's a lot of concern already because all of these amazing things that he says that he's going to do in his first 100 days, he's already talking about doing it through bipartisanship instead of just getting it through, since you have the House, the Senate, and the White House. So, I mean, from your perspective, do you think that he's actually going to push for all of these things that he says he's going to do? Or do you think that they're somehow going to find a way to still not give us help despite having a supermajority?
Okay, well, I don't know if you know this, but Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy, and Pence all attended church services with Joe Biden before the inauguration. And so I think now America knows we're together in the house of the Lord, and they're already reaching across the aisle to unite this country that was so devastated and divided by President Trump. I think, of course, they're going to get so much done in the first 100 days. It is obvious. I mean, now they have Mitch McConnell on their side now. Because I mean, did you see that picture yesterday with Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer? Smiling.
Like, what the fuck are you laughing about?
And you know what's interesting is no Democrat is talking about Medicare for all. No Democrat is talking for Medicare for all. And certainly Mitch McConnell is going to talk about Medicare for all. And so I think what we will see, it will be a bipartisan screwing of the people some more.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the last time we had this type of leverage in the White House, gave an expansion to restricting our civil liberties. So right after 9/11, they all came together to restrict our civil liberties. They all came together. And so I think they will, I mean, we're already seeing just tones of the idea of censorship and squashing dissenting voices. I mean, personally, the people that were at the Capitol 2 weeks ago, that what they were doing is startling. It's so provocative. And what they've decided to do about those people would be shut them down from all access to social media. And they think that squelching that voice and censoring these dissenting voices, no matter how ugly or vile or whatever they're saying, I'd rather hear about it. I'd rather be able to have it available for me. Let's just say, just as a sociologist, that I would like to know the sociology of these people. I don't understand how there's not actually a position in the White House that is like the czar of sociology.
That's a great.
And how you meet the needs of the people, because we are in extraordinary circumstances right now, and that we don't have somebody that is a consultant about what's happening. Instead, we have voices like AOC and Ro Khanna, who have both come out for different levels of censorship on different platforms. And I think it's a toxic time when supposed liberals on all spectrum of that liberal world are crying out for censorship with an excuse of they're mean, with an excuse of I was bullied when I was younger, with the excuse of I don't want to hear what they have to say, they're awful, and I am better than you. There's so many of these irrational voices, or you get these, these academics that go, well, if you would recognize the nefariousness of Parler and that you let these, come on. You know what's nefarious? You pretending you have an idea that is in lockstep with the laws and amendments that we already have in place. We already have these things in place. And Jimmy Dore showed yesterday a clip from Noam Chomsky communicating that to a student at an event he was speaking at, and communicated that even the people you don't want to hear the things they're saying, it's still, you need to have this freedom of speech. Come on. We talked before the show about the people, it was Brian Stelter's show on CNN, speaking to Alex Stamos, I believe, and Alex Stamos, who was the chief cybersecurity expert at Facebook, and stepped down. Now he's doing his own cybersecurity firm. And he was out there the other day sharing how we must really consider that there are voices on the internet get larger viewing audiences than CNN right now, and we need to be worried about that.
Yeah.
Well, commercial television networks, networks are going to compete with independent voices. And this guy is going, let's squash them. Let's squash them. No wonder the guy is having a cybersecurity firm. He wants to squash everybody. What kind of money is that guy going to make? That is, and of course, he's in lockstep with the oligarchs who would prefer dissenting voices to be shut down. And so, like, yes, maybe you don't agree with the politics of certain folks, but you don't want to hear what they're thinking?
Right. Yeah, it's really scary. We were talking about that before the show, like you said, and it was really scary to hear CNN just come out and say, there are people watching independent YouTube shows more than CNN, and that's a problem. And we really got to crack down on that, because otherwise people might actually get the information that they're looking for. So that was just insane for me. And I want to get further into that censorship and what that looks like and how that's definitely coming back to bite us in the ass. But first, we've got another one of our guests here that just arrived. Everybody, he is the founder of the Congress of Essential Workers, also known as the Amazon guy, which we all love. Please welcome friend of the show, Chris Smalls. Chris, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for being here. Absolutely. And Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year.
Is it?
I know. What is worth already? We got up to. Yeah.
So Chris, we were actually just talking. I don't know if you saw this clip, but there's a clip going around of CNN talking about how it's a problem that independent YouTube channels have more viewers than CNN, and how we need to really start censoring people. So do you want to, jump in this and talk about, this censorship that the left has been pushing lately, which I think is really dangerous, and it's going to come back around to hurt us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is dangerous. It's already, they're trying to weaponize it, and that's not what it's for, I've been a victim of it plenty of times already in my short period of activism. So I know what it's like to be censored by these tech companies and these billionaires. And they're the ones that's really going to have the power if they allow these, platforms like Facebook and Instagram to start censoring people. And whether it's the right or wrong, freedom of speech is freedom of speech. So it's bad that CNN shouldn't even be trying to compare themselves. Media is media no matter what, but we need our own media. The working class need our own media. And so what? If we're coming to our media for the truth, then so be it. They have to, maybe if they start saying some things as actual facts, then we'll go back to that. But it's not where we at right now.
I want to jump in really quickly because Christian, it's always great to see you. And,
Yes. I love you.
It's so wonderful that such a young man has such strength. But I want to ask both of you, maybe it's a tough question, but where did you get your credentials for being an activist? Did you have to apply through an agency to become a young activist? Because I've been challenged frequently that I don't have the proper credentials. So I know, I don't know. Did you get them? I don't know where you get your activism.
I want to see the forms you filled out.
Yeah.
You know what? As I sit here with no college degree, from no accredited school, and being the person who I am, I graduated from the School of Hard Knocks. Have you ever heard of that? That's where I got my credentials from. Growing up a Black man in this country, and that's it. Same goes for you. It doesn't matter. There's no type of credential. There is none. The revolution starts within yourself. So that's where it starts for everybody that goes out there. The revolution starts within yourself. And I wasn't no organizer or activist before everything happened to me. I had to learn, and I'm still learning. I'm a rookie. I'm an amateur. And for me to have the progress that I have, it's just a blessing. I didn't do this alone. And I'm just using that strength and that motivation to continue going. You know, that's what I'm doing. So, you know, people got to get off of that high horse that, you know, we're better than one another. We all in the same boat. I just don't get it. You know, and this window of opportunity for all of us to step up to the plate and make some change in this country is now. I don't know what a better time will be than in the midst of a pandemic. So, you know, I just say, you know, for those people out there, you know, don't even respond. They ignore it. We have to just continue to stay resilient.
Yes, yes, and stay together. Certainly, we're staying together.
Unite with Stef Zamorano.
Yes, exactly. Unite. I mean, it is all about uniting. And like you were saying, Chris, it was so interesting that you point out, like, we need like a working class network that is responding to the real concerns of our homes.
Yeah, I'd rather watch both of y'all shows than the CNN, and that's how it is. That's how it is now. As of late, you know, I tune in the podcast. You know, I'm actually about to launch my own, so you know, stay tuned for that as well. You know, this is what we.
I am so looking forward to that. I saw you say that on Twitter. Yeah,
Yeah.
please let us know as soon as that's up because I am so listening. And
What an important voice. What an important voice for people to listen, you know, and how to help organize with that.
That's exactly what it's going to be, all inclusive, and it's actually it's going to be female led because I have 3 female hosts, and it's going to be something different, you know, something
sounds like trouble.
Hey.
No, not for me. I mean, you know, we've been bonding and I've known them for a while, and they even behind the scenes, they help me out with organizing, and now they're willing to, you know, put themselves on the line as well. So they want to be out, you know, out in the eye, in the public eye. And I think they got great personalities. So I think it's going to be a successful, you know, show. Hopefully, you know, knock on wood.
Well, I would say too, Christian, if you ever need any kind of like, if the Jimmy Dore show can help, you know, like as far as like if you need technical, you know, you don't have to learn everything from scratch. Sometimes like if you want to like talk to anybody about that tech stuff, or I'm sure your team has it under control. And Eynelys, you also do a great show too, where you have that dynamic where you're speaking and also you can put stuff up. I don't know how to do that. And I was like, I got to ask her. I want to learn
share your screen. So if you look at the bottom of Zoom,
yes,
there's a green button that says share screen and you can share different screens.
Word.
So are you using another monitor when you share your screen?
No, you just like, if you have different windows up, you can just choose which one.
I'm going to learn how to do that.
I can show you later if you want. It's really easy. Yeah, but so Stef, let me ask you, talking about censorship and independent media,
I'm going to interrupt you because I'm going to ask, because we're all brown people here right now. Okay. I'm going to ask you the brown person question. Okay. And I asked Eynelys this earlier, but you know, did either one of you have a feeling of pride or any sense of, okay, we got a little further here in the political stratosphere, having Kamala Harris as vice president? Did that do anything to you? I don't care what your answer is. I'm fine. I'm just curious.
So my answer to that was, I can acknowledge that it's historic, but do I feel pride? No, because I know who she is. So while I can acknowledge the historic nature of it, her as a person, she's not a good person. So no, I don't feel pride that she's my VP.
Yeah, I definitely have mixed feelings about it. You know, it is a milestone for, you know, women of color in this country to get to, you know, one of the highest positions of power. Definitely acknowledge that, but I agree. You know, she came from a background that's not too clean, and I'm not too sure that I can hold, you know, my faith in what she's going to do for this country. So I feel the same way I felt yesterday. You know, the way I look at today's events, and I feel the same way I felt when the ball dropped on New Year's Eve. You know, it's like, you know, every year everybody thinks that it's going to change just by it being the next day or the next year. But no, I feel like we're going to still have an uphill climb and a very hard battle to get to where we need to be in this country.
Yeah, that's so
yes.
good.
And, you know, and we have to make sure that people aren't using those identity politics to keep us away from challenging them and pushing them towards, forcing the vote for Medicare for all, forcing the vote for a guaranteed income, forcing a vote to, I'm curious, how this is going to work out, being that Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer are all smiling about being now teaming together to get legislation passed. And it's like, what changed?
Right. I'm about to say bipartisanship. What? That's the same shit they've been using.
Was it just like 2 or 3 senators or, representatives? Is that what changed? But you think Mitch McConnell would do the same if the makeup was flipped the other way, if the majority were Republicans? You think he would go, hey, Chuck, let's go ahead and share this.
Let's work together, buddy.
It just seems to me that it was, Democrats or Republican liked.
And that's the problem right now that we in, is that the president, the former president, was so terrible. We got Joe Biden now, and Joe Biden feels this man has won the most historical presidency in history, right? Modern day history. So he feels like the savior right now. He feels like he's going to be the one to just swoop in and get all the Republicans to work together. That's how he feels. He really feels like that. He feels like he has the character to change everybody's feelings about what's going on in this country, and it's just going to happen. And he's done so much for us, it's just not the reality situation. And we got to make sure that we hold everything he does accountable. And starting today, I seen Bernie out there with a manila folder, and that's what I respect. The fact that he probably going to deliver some bills to his table tonight. Like, listen, brother, yeah, I understand. We ain't got no time to waste. So that's why I respect the people that's going to be fighting for us.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to have independent media right now. And that was what I was going to ask you, Steph, was something that I'm curious about is, what is the hardest part of doing what you do?
Curling my hair. Really just that I'm presentable. That would have to be. I have the light work here at we have a couple executives, and Jimmy Dore lifts the heavy weight of examining the stories and really breaking the stories down. And I think, getting the story, we don't do this. We talk about the news. We're a different type of show. The show idea is Jimmy Dore has something to say. Let's talk about these issues that seem to be hitting hard in most American lives. Healthcare, a jobs program. I mean, where are these? Where was Obama with a jobs program? Where was Obama with healthcare? How did it come we didn't get universal healthcare? I was in a union. When you get the more people you have buying the healthcare plan, the cheaper the healthcare plan is supposed to be. So why doesn't America just buy one big healthcare plan? How come that can't happen? When was Obama in office? So the idea that Jimmy's show is about communicating ideas that are important, that resonate with my neighbors, my family members. That was what directs us. We also are, from comedy, our sensibilities are different. We can't, the minute I try to conform to look like a woman on Fox or a woman on CNN or a woman on MSNBC, the minute I'm conforming to that image, anything that makes us conform to that image. And Jimmy's great about reminding the team of that. We are a different breed. And that's what they're afraid of. The different breed that's not in lockstep with the power structure. And we're not in lockstep with the power structure. And you know why we know this? Is because Force the Vote really created chaos for elected officials. And what they wanted to do with this type of show is they wanted to demonize passion. They want to demonize language, which leads to AOC saying, hey, you know what? we need to reconsider these people with these platforms and having this freedom to say these things. So, do we? Who's we? Who's we? You're afraid of the mirror that we're holding up to your face. And that's what we do here at the Jimmy Dore Show. So I don't think that's the hard part. I think the challenging part are the bad faith players. Jimmy did a wonderful guest spot on Tucker Carlson, and just using Tucker's name in a sentence makes people just want to lose their shit. And that the media corporations have worked really hard to divide us. They're working really hard to demonize a group of Americans. Now, if I said to you, instead of calling them Trumpers, I said, look at all those Mexicans. Look what those Mexicans are doing. We would all go, huh?
Yeah.
So why are we diminishing a whole group of people? Whether or not I agree with them or what they did, I cannot, in this show, I think it's threatening that this show wants to unite people through a third party. I think that's what's the threatening part. I think the threatening part is actually having solutions. Yeah. And so you can all have all these dimwits who went to Ivy League kindergartens. I mean, that's where they've been all their lives, right? You're like, did you fill out the form correctly? Do your parents have a permanent address? Are you in the right neighborhood? Do your parents, can they afford 30 grand a year? 30 grand a year. They'd go, that's not enough. We're sending our kid to the wrong school. People are paying 40 grand a year for their kid to go to an elementary school, for a kid to go to a middle school, to a kid to go, so they make sure that they can fit in to the power structure. So I went to public school. I taught in public school. I went to Fullerton College, and I loved it. And when I went to college, it was affordable. It was affordable in the 80s. It was affordable, crazy affordable. And I don't know, anyways, I'm just saying the things that we talk about here are meaningful to us. They are. And the comedy that we do it's a release for us. And doing the tours was invigorating and just gave us such satisfaction in a whole nother way that we can't wait to continue to communicate to the world about issues that are important. And we can't wait to bring people together and celebrate people like Christian Smalls and celebrate people like Nick Brana, that have a mission and a focus. And we want to help you with that. We're not, we want to help. We want to help America. We want to, how are people afraid of calling attention to shitty politicians? How do people go, well, don't be mean to them? Okay. You mean
that's
children living on
that's a no-no word. You can't say that.
Yeah, and children living on the street isn't cruel. I mean, people have their heads on so upside down, because I don't think those talking heads have ever been $400 away from an emergency. I do not think that. I don't think they worry about rent. I don't think they worry about healthcare. I don't think they worry about food on their table. I don't think they worry about their bank accounts. Because if they're in their 20s, they know mom and pop are going to take care of them. If they're in their 30s and in their 40s, they still know their mom and pop are taking care of them. Most of them, so they don't know the struggle. And you know what? Maybe because I came from a very modest background, I understand struggle. Yeah. So as far as I feel, there is a power structure, a power tug of war happening between independent thinkers and people who have been completely indoctrinated to protect the power structure.
Yeah, that's so true. And that's why I think that having that independent media that is everyone is trying to so heavily censor right now is so important. So I want to get more into the People's Party, and it's perfect timing because another one of our guests has arrived.
Yay!
Everybody, please
Hey,
welcome the national coordinator and founder of the People's Party and friend of the show, Nick Brana. Welcome, Nick. How are you?
Hey, Eynelys. It's good to chat with you and Stef and Chris. Great family we have on here responding to the inauguration.
Yeah, this is great. I'm so excited to have you on, Nick, because this was actually around the time that I really wanted started to get into the People's Party. So you are the founder of the Movement for a People's Party, which is now the People's Party, and Chris Smalls and I, as well as Jimmy Dore, are members of the Advisory Council. And so we all felt it was really important to create this new party and to give Americans that option. So can you tell us a little bit about the history of the People's Party, what led us to get to this point, and then also talk about what the plans are moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you see a reason, why the People's Party is so necessary in Biden's inauguration speech, in everything that's happened today. What you saw today essentially was the Democratic Party and Biden doubling down on zero analysis and zero introspection about why it is that people elected Trump in the first place. Why is it that people are so desperate that they stormed the Capitol? In 2016, the Democratic Party didn't reconcile with that at all. It just dismissed, tens of millions of Americans essentially as racist, including millions who had voted for Obama previously, wrote them off. Obviously, there are racist factions among Trump supporters, but you can't dismiss everybody's motives in that way. That is to dismiss the enormous suffering that exists in this country. And this is what Bernie Sanders himself, said after 2016, from 2016 to 2020, is that, you have now tens of millions of Americans who don't have health care, who are facing eviction, who were recently kicked off their employer-based health care, who also are lacking any kind of care, when they get older, that actually matches what they need, Social Security not being enough. And so you have an enormous set of problems that is bearing down on people, and there's no acknowledgement of that from the Democratic Party. Instead, it's completely written off people's suffering. And it's so much worse now after coronavirus and after the depression of 2020, that if Obama's neoliberalism from 2008 to 2016 gave us Trump, it produced Trump. Just imagine now, people so much more desperate, imagine what it's going to produce after Biden, who's more corporate than Obama, and people being so much worse off. Imagine what that's going to produce in 2021, in 2024, in terms of what we're going to get. We are going to get a much worse fascist than Donald Trump. And so, going back to 2017, it was myself, it was a number of others from within the Bernie campaign who, my job on the Bernie campaign had been lobbying the superdelegates for Bernie. So I worked with the DNC members trying to get their support. It was a miserable job, obviously. It was essentially trying to convince lobbyists in the Democratic Party, of which the DNC is full of them, to support Bernie. Obviously, they had no interest of doing that because the DNC is effectively like a committee of corporations. You have, big pharma, and you have big oil, military industrial, the banks, all represented on that committee through lobbyists. And so after that, I said, there's no way that this party can be reformed. And I joined up with a number of others from the Bernie campaign, and we started Draft Bernie for a People's Party, which became Movement for a People's Party. And then since then, we've grown to more than 150,000 members. We held the People's Convention in last year in August, a week after the DNC and the Republican convention. We had an amazing set of speakers like Dr. Cornel West. We had Jimmy Dore. Marianne Williamson, Nina Turner, Danny Glover, so many amazing people who joined us at that. And we decided with a vote after that, after the People's Convention, by a 99% margin in favor, that we were going to form a major new party in 2021 that was free of corporate money and influence. And that's exactly what we're doing now. We've registered in 2 states, Maine and Colorado. So we are well on our way.
And that's a strategic thing that you're doing. Nick, can you just explain it to me, what you're doing as far as getting access and ballots and why that's so important? What does that strategy look like?
We have to, in order to get to become a major party, you have to register in 50 states, state parties. And that's a process of collecting thousands or in some cases, tens of thousands of signatures in each state. And that sounds daunting until you consider the fact that the Green Party, with a meager amount of resources annually, is able to do that in virtually every state. And the Libertarian Party has been able to do it in 2016 and 2020 in every state. And so by getting that ballot access, it takes canvassing, it takes, organizing on the ground. That's what we need folks to do right now. You can join us and participate in that at peoplesparty.org and volunteer and join volunteers in your community, in your state, in your city to do that. But that's how we're going to get ballot access. That's how we're going to form the party. That's going to give us the ballot line so that when you go into the ballot box, you see People's Party right there with Democratic and Republican Party, and you can vote for those candidates who are going to support Medicare for all, a basic income, a Green New Deal, and everything else that we support as the People's Party. Our final platform is going to be developed at the founding convention later this year.
And I think something you mentioned once upon a time was each state pretty much has their own process for accessing a ballot. Is that true? So you have to kind of learn all the ins and outs for each state.
They do. Yep. Because the American electoral system is an enormous mess, of course. We should have election day should be a national holiday. We don't have that. It's on a random Tuesday. We should be encouraging people to vote instead of suppressing the vote. Should bring back, the Voting Rights Act. So this is similar to that. Is in each state, it's a different process. But with our attorneys, we have all of the processes. We know what all the processes are. We were joined, in fact, last month by the chair of the Colorado Democratic Progressive Democrats of Colorado, Mike McCorkle. He left the Democratic Party, a big defection from them, joined us, and he's now working with us and helping to plan out ballot access.
That is fantastic news.
That is great. And I want to ask you, Chris, so you've been through a lot when it comes to, labor rights and work rights. And so joining the People's Party Advisory Council for you must have really had a need for a party that can truly represent workers and give them the rights that they need. So why don't you tell me, what do workers need from a new party?
Hello, everybody. My name is Graham Elwood, and I am the
Hey, Graham.
Hey, Graham.
Are you naked? Is that why we can't see you?
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Everybody, before we get into Chris, Graham. Okay, so let's introduce you, Graham, since you just burst in the scene. I'm just kidding.
I'm so sorry, because here's this guy. Sorry, dude.
Everybody, he's a comedian, political commentator, host of The Political Vigilante, co-host of Government Secrets with Lee Camp. He is a regular on the Jimmy Dore Show, a potential 2022 congressional contender, and owner of not one, but 2 vegan guns. Everybody welcome Graham Elwood.
Boom. Here, get ready for this, people. Yeah, thank you for having me here. I apologize. It's nice to see everybody. I had a dentist appointment that, thanks to our great healthcare system, I just had to pay cash for. So that was exciting. Really, yeah. I don't have dental insurance, so I just had to pay cash. They're very nice. They provide great service, but I had to go out of pocket on this. to the tune of $230 some for x-rays. And I got to come back for drop another 100 on a cleaning. So,
the system's working.
The
system's working.
The system is totally working. It's great. Let's not be too mean on Joe Biden now that he's president. Everybody go easy. Don't say mean things about the squad, because in 2 years they have done so many tweets.
Yes.
It's impressive.
Can you imagine that none of the people in the Senate or the House or the White House have any plan for elder care? No plan. Elder care. They're all over the hill. They have zero plan for elder care.
Yeah. They're all these 90 somethings or whatever, however old they are, that are just a bunch octogenarians.
Because they're taken care of, Steph.
Yeah.
They're not going to have to worry. They're going to get a nice pension.
Yeah. A nice pension that keeps disappearing. So, all right. So we'll bring you in a second to talk about, we've got a lot of interesting stuff we're talking about, Graham, but let me get to Chris first. So Chris, go ahead and tell us what does the labor movement in the United States need from the People's Party?
Well, for one thing, we need that we don't get from neither party right now. We need our voices to be heard, and that's exactly what the People Party extends, to the people. They bring people on like myself that are activists, that's doing work in the streets and connecting with workers, and they give us a platform to give us opportunity to tell our story. So my story correlates with a lot of workers and what workers are going through in this country. And as essential workers, we need protections. We need a party that's going to get us protections, help us build our unions back, and strengthen essential workers. If we're now essential workers need, we need contracts to protect ourselves. We have none. We have zero protection in this country. We've been exploited. Billionaires made over $1 trillion during the pandemic. That's still going on. We have no hazard pay. We have no PPE at these jobs, and we're expendable. So we need a party that's going to listen to that, listen to the fact that we're out here dying and suffering, and we're not the heroes that people think we are. Our GED and 50-pound equivalent in my job description didn't say work during the pandemic and get sick and die. So we need a party that's going to actually put in some laws that's going to protect workers. And I think the People's Party is going to do that. It's blatant what's going on. There's no way people could tell me they didn't see the shit that was going on last year and say that, we got something better to look forward to, because we don't. And I think I'm at that point where it don't take me that long. I'm a quick learner. As you can see, like I said before, I wasn't an activist 9 months ago. And, to see the progress that I've seen in the last 9 months, I'm just trying to go in the right direction. And I think the People's Party is absolutely the right way.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. And Graham, I want to bring you in on this. We were talking about this earlier, which is, I'm sure you saw the CNN clip and how very concerned they are that independent YouTubers have a higher audience than CNN. And how, we must do something about that, like now. So cut that shit out. So I just want to ask you, how important is it to have a media infrastructure that is independent and a party that doesn't support censorship?
Well, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I kind of like being censored. You know what I mean? I like unelected tech billionaires telling me what I can and can't. I don't know what maybe I'm on the wrong panel. No, it's, you bring up great points, and all of this ties together. So one of the reasons they don't want independent media is because they don't want people like Chris Smalls getting a voice to, radicalize other employees into starting unions. I mean, that's they have to control the message across the board, not just labor. They don't want us talking about any anti-war message,
Oh, so, stop it. Stop it.
Yeah.
Don't say anti-war.
No word. No word.
And you're seeing, and it's troublesome too, because obviously the events that happened at the Capitol 2 weeks ago, that's serious. You had white nationalists with guns and, neo-Nazi paraphernalia taking over the Capitol. That's a legitimate thing that needs to be investigated. Those people need to be prosecuted, but they're going to use that. My fear is that they're going to use that for just sweeping, you know, Patriot Act 2.0. And now, if everyone's a domestic terrorist, the Sunrise Movement could be a domestic terrorist. Chris Smalls could be considered a domestic terrorist because he, you know, is threatening Jeff Bezos's, you know, $200+ billion. So we need now more than ever a free and independent media. So because it just, you know, I'd love to know how many big corporate media outlets have had Chris on to tell his story. And
Right.
even if they did, I'm sure they followed it like, well, we'll get both sides of it. And then they cut to an Amazon commercial and then cut back with some corporate guy saying, well, blah, 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 you know? So
That's
it's like,
That would be funny. They bring him on and then have an Amazon commercial.
I'm sure they would.
Oh, they have. They definitely have. I've seen. I could tell you now. I done been on CNN and I done been on every major media you could think of, man. They still have their hands right in back Jeff Bezos' pocket. So, yeah, like you said.
Yeah, go ahead.
How can it be free? And so what we need, and another reason why the People's Party to me is so important is it's not taking any corporate money, and there's no, it's why I think it's kind of, it's funny. This is all sort of happening at the same time. I was just involved in this new Talk Liberation, the Panquake, this new social media platform that Susie Dawson is helping put together along with Bill Binney, right? So one of the smartest people on the face of the earth, he's a cryptographer. And Susie and them they're like, we don't want advertisers on this social media platform because it corrupts it in the same way it corrupts CNN, who is not going to give a fair shake on, because they're getting ad money from Amazon. They're getting ad money from Boeing and Raytheon and Pfizer and whatever else. So you just can't take a penny of corporate money. You can't. And so the fact that the People's Party is not doing that, and that the actual people will decide who runs the party, it's not going to be done behind closed doors. So we can have, because a democracy needs debates. It needs discussions. It needs debate. Debates are a fine thing. It's a healthy debate, but when it's so stacked to these oligarchs and these massive corporations, it's not a fair debate. You know, it's not fair that there's people making $10 an hour for Amazon, and it's not a fair debate when they've got billions of dollars and they control the messaging. I mean, you know, so we're at a critical time right now. And, because we need more union labor, we need more free media, we need Medicare for all. Like, we're in the middle of a pandemic and we still can't get free healthcare like they've had in Europe for 70 years. It's preposterous.
Now,
to me.
Joe Biden could do an executive order, though. Joe Biden could do an executive order to give to help everybody. He could do an executive order, and he doesn't need any kind of bipartisan, right? He doesn't need that, right?
That's right. It was actually done in Libby, Montana, as part of the ACA in 2010. There is the one place in the United States, a small town of about 3,000 people, has Medicare for all. Every citizen has Medicare for all. It was in response to an environmental catastrophe, and Senator Max Baucus included it in the ACA, a provision to it's in the Social Security Act. To be able to extend it, it's called Section 1881A. And so Joe Biden could today, he's signing these executive orders, he could today extend Medicare for all to every American in the country using coronavirus as the environmental disaster that has struck the country right now. And every single day that he doesn't do that, he is consigning millions of people, condemning them to enormous suffering in the only country in the world that doesn't guarantee healthcare as a human right. And every day, I will go further, that the progressives in Congress do not demand that he does that, then they are participating in that as well. They need to build that demand, because he doesn't need Congress. He doesn't need the corporatists, the blue dogs that they're going to point to, that they're going to say, oh, they're the obstruction, the reason we can't get Medicare for all. You don't need any of those people. Joe Biden himself can expand Medicare for all to every American in the country. And it is incumbent upon every progressive in Congress to demand that he does that. Force the executive action.
I want to jump in really quick on this, Nick, because as we all know, okay, we all here supported Force the Vote. And I want to touch on Ryan Grimm and the slanderous attack that he threw at the People's Party. And I want, Nick, you to answer this first, and then you guys can jump in and let us know how you feel about it. It pissed me off so much, I had to do an unscheduled episode of the Eynelys Show just to say, listen, you douchebag, because I couldn't take it anymore. And it's like, first of all, the fact that he called the force the vote, he called it the force the vote thing, which maybe it's just me, but to me that was so dismissive and that was just so rude. And then he's talking about how we were plotting like in a nefarious way to make people believe that Democrats are sellouts, when that's actually a fact. And I had to be like, do you mean exposing? Is that the word you're looking for? Exposing that they're sellouts? Like, we're not trying to convince people, we're exposing that they're sellouts. So I just thought that attack directed at the People's Party was really weird, made no sense. And I just feel like people are being exposed as not who they say they are. So why don't you tell us about what the People's Party thinks about that attack?
I mean, of all of the things that Ryan Grimm could be doing, you know, I mean, he does some good reporting, and of all of the things he could be doing, to just continuously go out of his way to attack people who are organizing for Medicare for all in the United States as if that's some kind of nefarious plot. Like, this is the kind of thing that you would do. I mean, forget liberals. It's the kind of thing you'd hear conservatives say. And so, you know, that Ryan Grimm, unfortunately, his new job seems to be convincing people that fighting for Medicare for all is somehow the wrong thing to do after you have the Democrats having taken both houses of Congress and the presidency, and this being in a context of us having been told for a year or more by Bernie Sanders and progressives, you know what? Just kind of, bite your tongue right now during the election, before November, vote for Joe Biden, elect him, and then we'll push him left. Well, guess what? Here we are. And now the people who are trying to push him left with, for example, force the vote, or by putting pressure on Biden to single-handedly pass Medicare for all with executive action, now we have Ryan Grimm attacking us for pushing for that. And I find that reprehensible that he would do that. I mean, this is the kind of thing that you saw from liberals when they would attack Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. It was upsetting to see it because, first of all, and I know I'm stuck on the thing stuff, but that's how it came across to me, this force the vote thing. It's like, well, we got almost 50,000 signatures in just a couple of weeks for the thing. And over 100,000 people tuned into the town hall for the thing. And, none of these reps could even be bothered to show up, let alone respond to our request. And it's like, I understand that these progressives don't take corporate money, but if you're voting the same way as the people who do because you're scared to lose your job, what difference does it make? Intentions stop mattering when you start voting and aligning yourself with the corporatists. So, I mean, what is the People's Party going to do to ensure that whatever candidate they run for president in 2024 is, number one, actually willing to fight and not just talking a good game? And number two, actually willing to stand up for our rights, including saying, even if I don't agree with this person, they have a right to free speech.
In the Democratic Party, the platform is a joke. Like, we all know it. They don't adhere to it whatsoever. In fact, in 2017, a year after passing the platform at the 2016 convention, the Democrats came out with basically a new platform. It was called a better deal. Remember that? And they just basically ignored the other platform passed by their own delegates. And so that has to change. You know, in the People's Party, our candidates will be accountable to the platform. They will be accountable to the party and to the membership of the party to actually represent those interests. The other thing, importantly, is that, as Graham said, you know, they will not be taking corporate money. They will have no ties to corporate lobbyists. They will have no golden parachutes waiting for them from, you know, on Wall Street when they retire. They will not come from industry. There will be no, you know, we're not having the revolving door. We're not dealing with that for either party leaders or for elected officials. That's all ending, you know, and they also won't be accountable to all of the incentives that progressives and every member of Congress faces and elected official faces in the Democratic Party. These are all of the institutional pressures that lead progressives who even agree with the policies like AOC to not act on their best strategic opportunities to enact things like Medicare for All during Force the Vote. And so these are things like being accountable to Nancy Pelosi, having to answer to party leadership, having to support blue dog Democrats in swing districts, essentially, you know, and watering down your policies that way, having to support neoliberals in order to get, you know, or befriend the party establishment in order to get committee assignments that you want, in order to not be primaried by the DCCC. You know, you're not going to be concerned about all of these things in the People's Party because there's all these structural mechanisms that we've seen year after year, decade after decade, that when you get into the Democratic Party, they immediately start moderating you. They immediately start reeling you into the party establishment. And we've seen that happen, unfortunately, with a number of the progressives that have been elected. And those structural mechanisms and incentives, that incentive structure that leads people to do that, will not exist in the in the People's Party. Essentially, they're going to be accountable. Elected officials are going to be accountable to the party itself and the members.
That's awesome. Steph, I want to ask you, because I know that before
I gotta take off. It's 3 o'clock. I gotta go.
No worries.
What's the last question?
Huh?
Okay. What was the last question?
My last question was, I know the Jimmy Dore Show has been a longtime proponent of a general strike. Do you think now is the time to do that?
I think now's the time to organize it. I think there's organizations that are in lockstep with that. I think that whatever the Jimmy Dore Show, I'm sure everybody here on the show would, however we can get the word out on these events that are taking place, you know, we certainly want to continue to support it. And I just, I hope they listen to these general strikes, because this is the beginning. You know, we already saw what can happen with chaos. And I think these general strikes are meaningful. And we're going to cover a story today about a strike that's happening in New York right now, and that they have offered the workers 37 cents, where the workers are asking for $1 of an increase. That's what they want, $1. And they risk their lives to continue to work during this. They took cuts, you know, their whole families are vulnerable to this. So we have this whole force of workers out there that are constantly putting their lives on the line just to go to work so they can provide for their family. That's not the America. That is not the country we are supposed to be. We are a country of great innovation. We're a country of great thinkers and critical thinkers and leaders, and a lot of people with great heart and passion. And I think the collective is coming together, and that's dangerous to the power structure, because people are uniting. And it doesn't matter. I don't look at my neighbor who's struggling and go, I wonder what color their skin is.
Right.
You know, I wonder what their party affiliation is. No, when I see people struggle, I want to help those people. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care about what religion you are. I care about helping you. So I think, yes, how we can help them. Oh, my team is calling me.
No worries. Thank you so much, Steph.
Shoot. Goodbye. Thank you. People's Party.
Thank you.
Bye,
All
Steph.
right, everybody.
Bye.
You are watching the Eynelys Show right now. We are having an Inauguration Day People's Party special, and we are here with Chris Smalls, Graham Elwood, and Nick Brana. Please hit that follow, like, and subscribe button. It's totally free, and it's the best way to help support the show. So, Graham, I want to pick up off of something that Stef just said that you actually mention a lot in your show, which is this is the compromise. And what you mean by that is, if these issues and these crises that we have are not addressed, that, you know, the level of violence and unrest is only going to grow. Can you expand a little bit upon that? Because you make that point often, and I think it's such an important point for people to understand that this is the bare minimum of what could happen.
Yeah, what we're asking for with Medicare for all, and again, I mean, so I'm so glad Nick brought up the fact that that could be done by executive order. I didn't even realize that, which is great. Also by executive order, 85% of all student debt are federal. So the president literally can just write by executive order, and that debt is forgiven. You don't need tax money for it. You can just, it's gone.
Marijuana?
So, marijuana, you could do that. I mean, like, we could go on down the line of all the stuff that Biden could be doing today. So, you know, what we're asking for, this is the concession, because while I don't condone what happened at the Capitol on January 6th, I mean, that was awful, but I think the people in power have seen, like, what happened the summer of the George Floyd protests. You saw, I mean, both Pelosi and Mitch McConnell's homes were vandalized, and it wasn't just like F you, it was like cancel rent. It was like, give us $2,000. That's what was happening. And you know, the folks that showed up at the Capitol building, yes, some of them neo-Nazis were there for awful hate-filled reasons, but not all of them. Some of them were there because they're hungry, because they've been waiting in food lines, because a $600 check is not enough. And, you know, they better wake up to the fact. I mean, I said this on my show in the summer during the, you know, all of the Black Lives Matter protests. I said, when we have 30 million evictions, and we need rent forgiveness. Apparently Biden's putting that in this new stimulus bill. There better be, because just pushing evictions down the road isn't going to do it, because these protests, even the Capitol, I would argue, if you have 30, 40, 50, 60 million Americans kicked out of their homes, it's going to make the protests and everything look like a Disney parade. I mean, when you got people that are hungry and they got nothing else to do, they're going to get pissed off. And it won't matter what side, whether they're red or blue or whatever. And so this is the thing FDR understood. I mean, basically the old story is FDR saved capitalism, because he went to all those like Rockefeller types and said, guys, if you don't let me put these programs in place, they're going to come get us. They're going to burn it down. So, I mean, if I was in another country and was watching America, I'd say this country is collapsing, and COVID uncovered all of the decades of problems of America: out of control capitalism, the evisceration of unions, as Chris has talked about. We got to see who's really important when the pandemic first hit. It ain't billionaires. It's not CEOs. It's people working at Amazon. It's people delivering a truck for Walmart. It's people checking out your food at the grocery store. It's the frontline medical workers. I mean, so this is the concession. The things that we want, and we're radicals because we want free healthcare and unions. I mean, this is centrist views in like Western Europe. This is centrism. And we're crazy radicals because we don't want 60,000 people a year to die because they don't have health insurance in the middle of a pandemic. So, yeah, you know, and AOC now is like, we got to pressure Joe Biden. Well, a week or two ago, she's like, oh, a comedian said, F you, that's mean. No.
Violence.
Oh, that's violence. Oh, okay. Wow. I mean, I guess we should challenge Joe Biden and hold him accountable. Is that violence? I mean, give me a break. So we need peaceful, nonviolent resistance, but we need real resistance. We need real general strikes. I mean, boycotts and strikes are the only thing that make them listen, because all they care about is money. So like when you shut stuff down, that's all they care about. When you stop doing this, if everybody, I mean, imagine if 1 million or 2 million people just canceled their Amazon Prime Think about how much money that is for Jeff Bezos. Think about what that would do. So those types of actions, and I think the people in power are realizing that everyone's waking up. You know, when Obama got sworn in, I was one of the millions of people who was like, oh, thank God he's here. I phone bank for him. He's going to save the day. And he didn't. Now people are paying way more attention because, as has been discussed on this show, but it bears repeating, there's no excuses now. The Democrats have the White House, they have the Senate, they have Congress. I don't want to hear it. You can't blame Trump. You can't blame.
Let me ask you something on that, because we were talking about that before you came on. Do you think that they're actually going to feel enough pressure to accomplish anything? Or do you think they're still going to find an excuse to not do anything despite their supermajority?
The answer is yes to both. They're gonna look for any crybaby excuse they can. Oh, there's not Mitch McConnell. Like they need these like, oh, obstructionist Republicans. But I don't want to hear it, because if you get it to a 50-50 split, the vice president, who's a Democrat, can make it happen. So I don't want to hear it. And so what needs, yes, they're going to absolutely come up with their, whiny centrist. Well, now's not the time. Oh, we'll wait for a worse pandemic. We'll wait for a worse pandemic. We'll wait for 40% unemployment. We'll wait for food lines that are 10 hours long, not just 3 hours long. That's what we'll wait for. What is Nick Brana playing my video again? So,
oh my God, that video you did of the Chicago Cubs guy or whatever.
Oh, Coach Lee Elia.
The fucking game. I was dying. I was like, yes, this is comedy.
Well, that's part of it too. So they're going to make excuses. They absolutely are. And our job is to not only hold them accountable, but to turn to all the liberals and go, hey, you said just don't be mean to Joe Biden and wait till he's in there. Then we'll push him to the left. Well, guess what, kids? He's president now. That's what happened today. So no, I don't want to hear it. Trump's gone. There was no revolution today. It's over. He's done. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. So when the liberals on social media, do it. Do what you said. Yeah, but don't be mean to, they're our allies. No, that's why I use sports as an analogy, which is so funny. Ryan Grimm trying to give like Justin Jackson football advice.
Let me tell you how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you give him workout tips, Ryan? That'll help. You really know what you're talking
It's
about.
so much worse than that, even, Graham, I think, because I see the Democrats doing the exact same thing that they did when Obama took full power, which was, when Obama had in 2009, he swept it off the back of running on Medicare for all, tackling the climate crisis, getting big money out of politics, expanding labor rights, ending the wars. He ran on all of these things. And guess what? The American people put him in decisively as president. He got supermajority in the Senate. He got, the House. And so he could also do anything that he wanted. So the Democrats could. What did they do instead? They invented this fictitious narrative about how Obama saw himself. Obama was so magnanimous that he saw himself as a transcendental figure. He wasn't just there he could pass whatever he wanted, but he was beyond that. He was beyond helping people that way. Instead, he wanted to change politics in Washington forever even though he could do anything himself, he insisted on bipartisan agreement to do anything. Like, this was literally the excuse that they invented, and the media fed this back as if it was some kind of grand gesture on his part, that he wasn't using his power to give everybody in the United States healthcare, that he wasn't using his power to tackle the climate crisis, to expand labor rights, to do everything that he promised, to end the cancer of big money politics in our political system. And right now, Schumer is negotiating an agreement with Biden's blessing with McConnell, a power-sharing agreement. When is the last time that you see the Republicans win and go to the Democratic Party to negotiate a power-sharing agreement overhead? And when is the last time you see the Republicans win and then immediately start talking about how many Democrats they're going to put in their cabinet? It's ridiculous.
I know.
It's a level of weakness that I don't even know how you get to that point where you're so bitched out that it's almost like Stockholm syndrome. Like they come like, yes, please, more, give me more, beat me harder, daddy. Like, what is that? That's literally what it is.
It's
You know what I'm talking about, Graham? I saw that. But that's what it is. It's like they like it. They want it. So it's just like, so Chris, let me ask you, if we were to, let's say that we do a general strike, what would we want to come out of that, and what would that look like? Who would we need to bring together? How would we make a general strike happen from your point of view?
Oof. How in this country? Good luck. But I'll give you some hope. What I've been trying to do is combine these movements. That's what we have to do. The labor movement, the social injustice movement, the environmental movement. These movements of unrest need to come together. You know, Black Lives Matter need to be out there with Amazon workers and environmental workers as well, because that's strength in numbers right there. If all these movements came together and we called the general strike at, the same time, one day, that's all it would take. But people are so wrapped up in their head that we got to have mutual aid. Mutual aid. We need mutual aid for strikers. And I get it. Yeah, we need mutual aid and we need these things. But how are we going to get them if everybody's divided? It's so divisive in these movements, and we can't come together. There's really no true solidarity. A lot of people say that word. They throw it out there like accountability. They throw these words out there, but it's not really taking place. It didn't take me that long to figure this shit out. I mean, like I said, I'm still a rookie at my activism career, or whatever you want to call it. But at the same time, I'm a fast learner. And what I've seen is all these things happen. It's really going to be hard to have people nationwide come together. There's so many things so many intangibles that are involved in oppressing us. And you have people like, what's this guy named? Robert Graham or
Ryan Graham.
Got people like them that's doing the oppressors' work for free. They're doing it for free. And this is what we're dealing with on the left. And what the left really need to be afraid of is how organized we've seen those Trumpers or white supremacists on the 6th. We've seen how militant they are and how prepared they are. We are not like that. That's what we really need to be afraid about. And what I'm saying is this, like, if we don't combine these movements and we're going to rely on Joe Biden and the administration to do what they want to do, we're going to be in the same situation in 2024. Somebody tweeted out today, we're back to what got Trump here all over again, and you've seen AOC tweet as well, talking about, it's up to all of us to, like force them, I guess, left or whatever. I'm like, no, it's actually up to you. You are the decision makers. We're the ones who put you there on the Capitol Hill to make decisions. It's up to you. We've done enough for the last year. We already got our ass kicked by police for the last year. You've seen what happened in New York City, on MLK Day. Like this is going to continue to happen until you guys protect us or do something that's valuable for us or beneficial for us. That's the unrest that we're dealing with right now in this country. And I would absolutely love to pull off a general strike. And I can tell you one company for sure that can actually do that is Amazon. And we have 600,000 workers nationwide.
Wow.
If them 600,000 workers nationwide decide to not go to work for one fucking day, I guarantee every billionaire in this world will be shitting their pants. And that's all it would take. And I hope one day I can, get to that point, building the support and workers' power and joining movements and parties like the People's Party, creating platforms, getting on platforms. This is what it's going to take. It's going to take a long uphill climb of doing that. But if we build enough general support, then hopefully we'll have enough workers' power where we can cause this general strike for real.
Yeah, and you bring up a really good point about how divided we are. So, Nick, let me ask you, what is the People's Party willing to do? Because we've talked about this before on the show, where the government has this really neat trick where they will look at every group of people and tell them all of your problems are because of this other group. That way, nobody realizes that all of our collective problems are actually because of our corrupt government. So they're very comfortable pitting us against each other. And that poll just came out that people think that the biggest threat to them is other Americans, that's scary. So what we have here at the People's Party and what we want to do is, it doesn't matter if you're left, right, middle, whatever. If we can agree on the policy, because policy is what matters. If we can agree on the policy, we can bring everybody together. So, Nick, what is the People's Party going to do to help bring people together, to help a general strike happen? How do we bridge that gap?
The establishment in this country, Wall Street, the military industrial complex, the big tech companies, they understand that the people are many and they are few. And so they understand that their power rests on the ability to divide the working class and turn us against each other and tell us that, the priorities of Black Lives Matter and the environmental movement and movement for labor rights, that these are somehow separate or that these are somehow in conflict with each other, rather than being all different manifestations of the fact that our government isn't providing what we need. And so, as the People's Party, we're running on some of the policies that are the most popular and have the biggest agreement in the country, whether the majorities among Democrats, Republicans, Independents, things like getting money out of politics. That's upwards of 90% of Americans agree with that. You don't find that kind of agreement on anything in the United States. And yet there is virtual unanimity in the US that corporate money is corrupting our politics, and neither of the two parties will do anything about it. Same thing with Medicare for all, more than 72%. Same thing for getting for guaranteeing college, free public college. That also has enormous majorities. Same thing for a Green New Deal. And a lot of these policies have super majority support. And so those are the kinds of things that we will be running on, because there is no excuse. This is supposed to be a democracy, right? In a democracy, what the people want is supposed to happen. Well, that's not happening. The people overwhelmingly want these things, and it's not happening. And it's been in 2015, there was a really groundbreaking study that was done by Princeton and Northwestern University that proved what we all know and what we're talking about here. And they said, the researchers, they studied 2 decades of policy decisions, and they found that, in fact, the government that the influence of what people want, on the government, the policies they support, has a near zero, statistically insignificant impact on public policy. And so what that means is that a policy like getting corporate money out of politics that has 90% above support, and then compared to another policy that would have almost no support, like expanding inheritance, the amount the billionaires are able to roll over basically through inheritance, that has zero support. Those have the same odds of passage. And in fact, when you control for what people want, for their preferences, you find that in fact it's big donors and it's Wall Street corporate individual donors. Those are the ones who are really calling the shots. They're the ones who are writing the policy. Sometimes, we even have the truly absurd kind of show that in Congress, oftentimes they will pass bills that they haven't even read. It's been written by K Street. It comes to them and they're expected to vote on it in a couple of hours. And so it's literally lobbyists.
Don't even read it. They
writing
don't
the
even
bill.
read the bill. They've said it.
That's right. Where they won't even read the bill. But you know what? It's not important to them to know what's in the bill. It's important to them to know that their donors signed off on it.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. So the last thing I want to ask you guys about before we wrap up the show, and everybody, this is the Eynelys Show. I am your host, Eynelys Garcia. We are here with Chris Smalls, Nick Brana, Graham Elwood. Please follow, like, and subscribe. It's totally free and it helps. So the last thing I want to talk about is Julian Assange and the fact that Trump did not pardon him or Snowden. And I want to start with you on this one, Graham, because I know this is something really big for you that you talk about all the time. And maybe, Nick, you can jump in and talk about the People's Party perspective on this, and Chris as well. But Graham, how do you feel about the fact that Trump didn't pardon Assange? I doubt that Biden ever will. Like, what does that say about the state of our country that this is what we're doing to journalists?
Well, it says several things. First of all, any delusions that any Trump supporter has that Trump is some sort of outsider. No, he's a part of the establishment. He's a part of the ruling class. I mean, he said some things that pissed them off probably, but this fact that he's an outsider, because if you look at who he did pardon, war criminals, people who have just committed open crimes, they get pardoned. And he talked about, I was mildly optimistic when I watched Trump's speech yesterday, because he was talking about censorship, and I was like, is he going to pardon Julian Assange just to stick it to the Democrat? Whatever. I didn't care what his reasons were. And the fact is, this is why we need a People's Party, is because Trump pardoned a bunch of war criminals, and Biden is not going to pardon Julian Assange and Edward Snowden. That's never going to happen by the Democratic Party. When he was vice president, they were like, no way. They went after him. I mean, when he was vice president, they put Chelsea Manning in jail and had her tortured. So it shows you, and again, all of the things that Biden could be, just Medicare for all, all these things he could be doing by executive order. It shows you that the permanent state, which is the intelligence community, they're never elected. I mean, the head of the CIA is a cabinet appointee or whatever, but fine. They're funding, they get unlimited money. It's the intelligence community's budget isn't even included in the war budget, which is already offensive and out of control. So this all ties in. It's all very relevant, because when you talk everything we've been talking about today. So, when Nick was just talking about how the structure of the People's Party and how it's different because it doesn't take corporate donors, which is a good thing. And when Chris was talking about how all these organizations should be unifying, but they're fighting with each other, I would wager that the intelligence community has put people inside of Black Lives Matter and the Green Party and any of these other organizations to cause friction. This is not conspiracy theory. This is people like Susie Dawson who have uncovered through leaked documents and through Freedom of Information Act, and mainly through WikiLeaks, that this is what the intelligence community does. This is how they get the left so divided, is they put people in there to cause problems, and they seem like they're big advocates of yours, and they show up for your meeting, and and then there's some weird fight, or there's something, or the servers go down, or there's two people are dating and now they're fighting with each other, or whatever. There's always some shit in there that just keeps it messed up. So it's all the more reason why the ruling class, the people that really control the world, the 1%, they can't have somebody like Julian Assange and Edward Snowden free. So we need to keep pressuring them. I mean, it broke my heart to see Julian's mom tweet last night when the White House released its list of people that were pardoned. She's like, my son's not on it. And all of this stuff is connected, as I just laid out. So it's all the more reason why we need freedom of press, because if you're going to put Julian Assange in jail for being a publisher, then you better put the publishers of the New York Times and the Washington Post in jail too. Like, Ben Bradley, I mean, going back for publishing the Pentagon Papers, if he was alive, if he had done that very act today, I guess he'd be in jail too. So we don't have a free and open democracy anymore. And we got to stop deluding ourselves that we do. And, if the vote any blue will do liberals go back to sleep while Biden and Harris keep bombing countries and keep surveilling the American people and write out this Patriot Act 2.0 or whatever.
Yeah.
then we need it now more than ever, is WikiLeaks.
Yeah, that's so true. Nick, what is the People's Party stance on Snowden, Assange, Manning?
What we think is, forget the last day of your presidency. The People's Party is going to pardon Julian Assange, Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning, and other whistleblowers like Thomas Drake, John Kiriakou on day one. Forget the last day. That's what we say. Because it is not a crime. It is not a crime to reveal a crime that your government committed against you. That is admirable. It is to be celebrated. It should be elevated. And so that's our view. And then putting in place stronger whistleblower laws inside the government and inside particularly the Pentagon, the CIA, and all these other agencies, the NSA, which now act completely unaccountable. And then moving into the actual policies that have been enacted. So, for example, mass surveillance. That's going to end because that's fundamentally incompatible with the Fourth Amendment. And so that what Snowden revealed, that every single one of our text messages, emails, everything we do online, our browser history, that's being collected. Tell me that's not authoritarian.
Right.
That's going to end. And so all of these things are going to come to an end. And I want to say, too, that at the Movement for a People's Party, I was at a direct action with for Assange on the same weekend as Force the Vote. And I bring this up because I want to say that as the Movement for a People's Party, our theory of change, it combines both a major new party that is free of corporate money and direct action and being in the streets. We believe that those two things are compatible and they have to go together. And so when Chris was talking about a general strike and organizing a general strike, as he's been leading the call for, that's the kind of thing that as we build the People's Party, we're building not just a vehicle for electorally challenging the Democratic and Republican parties and providing another option, but we are building a vehicle to be able to lead on things like a general strike, to be able to lead on things like direct action.
That's fantastic. Chris, anything you want to say on that?
Absolutely. I could relate. The year of the whistleblowers. I'm one of them. And where should I begin? So I just want to talk about my experiences with, just censorship and how, it relates to what's going on with Graham touched on about the CIA intelligence and these billionaires that's really controlling what we say, our freedom of speech. Number one, I definitely had some of my experiences. I've been followed, and I'm always honest about what happens to me. People want me to be afraid. That's what I get. I get these emails, death threats, messages all the time. Aren't you afraid? Billionaire, they got all this money to make people disappear and this, that, But I'm not afraid of anything. And what happened to me during the past 9 months? I've been followed. I've been censored online, Twitter, tweeted, I've blocked some of my tweets directed at Jeff Bezos or Amazon, are trying to get our direct actions out there. In Beverly Hills, that people may or may not heard about, we marched to his $165 million mansion. And while we are in front live streaming, somebody from the mansion sent out a drone and scrambled all of our live streams, dropped all our Wi-Fi's. May have been Jeff Bezos himself, pretty much pulled like a Call of Duty perk, and this drone came out and literally surveilled our whole entire event right above my head. But I didn't do nothing. I looked at it and gave it the middle finger. That's what I did. But
fuck you, that's my name.
That's how I felt about it. But that's the extreme levels that they go, hiring the Pinkertons. This is actually happening. Amazon has surveillance, CIA intelligence. They hired somebody that used to work for the CIA. So like, if this is not alarming to people, the American people, and the story of Julia Assange and Ed Snowden, we should be very afraid of the power that is within the 1% class, and we have to do something about it. It's not even a question anymore. We have to, and we have to apply pressure. And once again, I can't wait for the day the People's Party pardons all these whistleblowers, because that's going to be historical. And I know that I'm protected by affiliating myself with them. You know, I feel protected more so than ever, and that's what other whistleblowers that are out there in the same situation. You know, there's nothing to be afraid about. We have stories to tell. We have freedom of speech. We should have freedom of speech at least, and we shouldn't feel ashamed, or we shouldn't feel scared, or we damn sure shouldn't be in jail for speaking truth to power. And I stand in solidarity with him, and I hope one day, you know, his mom will see him a free man again, and everybody that's locked up.
Amen on that.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I got to tell you, Nick, it was such a blast of fresh air to hear you officially say today, yes, you know, whatever candidate, you know, the People's Party runs for president, they're going to align with the values of, we're going to pardon these whistleblowers. We're going to put protections in, because that is such a huge thing to hear. I think that's actually a huge announcement. I'm just gonna be honest. Like, that's huge, huge, huge to hear. And it only reinforces my belief even more that this is the right thing to do, is create a People's Party. Okay, guys, so we're going to wrap up the show. Before we go, Chris, I'm going to go one by one. Chris, why don't you tell people how they can find you, and if you have any last thoughts?
Absolutely. At @shut_down Amazon on Twitter, no surprise there. At TCOEW on Twitter as well, Facebook, Instagram, tcoew.org. Follow us, stay tuned. We will be having a podcast coming out later on this month, and yes, follow us. We're going to do some great work this year. Thank you.
Nice. Graham, why don't you tell people how to find you, and do you have any closing remarks?
Yes, you can watch my show, The Political Vigilante. We live stream 4 or 5 days a week. We drop 2 to 3 clips a day. I'll be going live probably later today. I'm also on Rockfin, and you can support me at Patreon and Rockfin, and all that's available at grahamelwood.com. My closing remarks are, thank you for having me on this panel. Really appreciate, Nick, you doing this with the People's Party. In any way that I can help, let me know. And Chris, I think it's badass what you've been doing in the middle of this pandemic, dude. So it's awesome. And I'd love to have you on my show at some point.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Nick, so I want to let you guys know, we're definitely going to be doing a 100-day special after Biden completes his 100 days. Stef is going to be here. Nick is going to be here. I'm going to get some other people in here. But Stef suggested that we also do a 50-day so that we can assess the progress halfway through. And I hope that some of you guys will join me for that. But Nick, any closing remarks, and tell us, you know, where can people find you, and where can people find the People's Party?
I'm in for both specials. You can find us at peoplesparty.org. We're on all social media platforms, basically. Just search the People's Party. Just want to close by, yeah, I mean, it's great to be with you, Eynelys. The show you're building, it's fantastic. Giving voice to people like Chris and Graham, myself. And shout out to Chris and Graham for the amazing work that they're doing as well. And I want to say that, you know, right now, like, if we don't act, those of us who don't know what is coming, the default right now, the trajectory that this country is on, is that we're going to get a worse fascist than Trump in 2024. Like, so every single person who knows that, because if Obama gave us Trump, now that people are in the middle of a pandemic, you know, now that people have faced a depression, tens of millions of people facing eviction, loss of health care. Imagine now, and Biden is more corporate than Obama. So you have now the conditions that are going to produce fascism in the United States in 2024. And every single person who understands that is the trajectory. If we don't act, that is the trajectory. For every single person who understands that, it is incumbent it is morally incumbent upon you to work to build an alternative, because it's the People's Party that is going to prevent that from happening. I truly believe that it is us, in what we're doing, in the direct actions that we're going to take as the People's Party, and the presidential candidate and the congressional candidates that we're going to put up, that are going to prevent that from happening, if anything is. So come find us and get involved, help us get on the ballot, support amazing candidates that actually stand for everything that we and the majority of Americans believe in at peoplesparty.org.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And I just want to remind everybody, don't listen to anybody who says that you want a handout. You're a taxpayer. It's your money. Okay. And we really have to stop the taxation without representation that we're seeing. And that's a big, when I start merch, I'm going to have a taxation without representation shirt. Okay. That's how strongly I feel about this, because you can't tell me that the majority of the country wants these things that every other industrialized nation has, and we're told what we can or cannot do with our own tax dollars, while we spend billions and trillions on wars that nobody wants. So we can't continue to allow these politicians to career climb. We can't continue to allow them to steal our tax dollars and enrich themselves while telling us that we can't even have basic things such as healthcare, and we have Americans dying every year because they got sick. So it's disgusting, it's ridiculous, and we need a general strike. I'm so happy that the People's Party is on board for this. I'm so happy that we've got independent media, and I don't give a fuck how much CNN wants to censor us. We won't shut up, because we're not going to be bullied. We're not going to be, dominated, even though some people like that, but not that way, not that way, okay? We only like it in the good way, not in the bad way. So everybody go to peoplesparty.org, watch the Graham Elwood Show, Political Vigilante. Stay tuned for Chris Small's new podcast. I am Eynelys Garcia. This has been the Eynelys Show, Inauguration Day People's Party Special, and we will be back again soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And remember, hit the like, subscribe, and follow button, totally free, and it's the best way to support the show.